You're listening to the Zoe Turner podcast, business and mindset conversations that will help you move from fear and uncertainty to development and growth so that you can crush both life and business. Please welcome your host, Zoe Turner.
In today's episode, I am speaking to a gentleman that arrived in Dubai in 2009 with only $1,000 in his pocket. 11 years later, he now operates a number of businesses, from marketing, recruitment, to training, to hospitality, and a very successful online media agency, employing over 100 people and turning over millions of dollars through his Be Unique group of companies. So I'm keen to find out your backstory and how you managed to achieve what you have and what strategies that you put in place to do that. So let's welcome Dariush to the podcast today.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. First of all, Darius, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Perfect. Yes.
Dariush.
Dariush. It's Iranian. Dariush.
Should have checked first.
Don't worry. Arabs say Darwish, but Dariush is a Persian king. But I think in England they say Darius. So
Darius, yeah. So how would you prefer I call
However you want it.
Darius or Darush?
I know you say it with love. That's all that matters.
Okay. Because I would think Darius, but I'll say Darush.
Darius is good.
What are you grateful for today?
Breathing. Being alive. 11 years ago, I had a major heart attack and I had a 25% chance of living. And I never take a morning or an evening for granted. Okay. So it's easy to live in gratitude of life and oxygen in your lungs when you nearly lost life. So living, breathing.
Take us back to before you moved to Dubai. You moved out here in 2009. That was actually only a year before I moved out here. Explain to us what led you to move to here. What were the events that resulted in you moving out to Dubai?
Sure.
What were your plans and your goals on coming here?
Where do I start? I'm Iranian born, but in 1978, aged 12, we moved to England. We moved to England to learn to speak English, and the revolution started and we just stayed. So we were kind of holiday makers and we never really went back. My uncle, I lost my father when I was 4, but my uncle, it was my mom's cousin, we call him my uncle, was the managing director of ICI, which is AstraZeneca, in Iran. And he was earning around $24,000 a month at a time.
My stepfather worked for ICI.
No, really? Where?
Yeah.
In Cheshire?
In the northeast of England.
Northeast, right. The head office was in Alderley Edge. So we spent, whilst travelling, whilst on holiday, we spent 6 months in London. And then our uncle, when the revolution started, Iranian revolution started, said, come to Manchester. And I remember arriving in Manchester and it was like beautiful rain. And all I can remember is rain for the next 35 years. Never stopped raining. And it was grey and it was dark, and that's all I remember. Not particularly intelligent guy, not particularly educated. I'm dyslexic. I was constantly bullied. Very miserable childhood. Father passed away. My mom was only 19 years older than me, so she was hurting. She inflicted those pain on me, psychological pain and physical pain. So I wasn't that confident. And I went to school where I was bullied in England all the time. Who
raised you?
My mum.
Your mum?
My mum. So she was a kid herself. So there's only 19 years between us. So the pain that she was suffering as a single mum, somebody whose husband left through natural causes, she inflicted that pain on me. So I didn't have a good childhood. Then I went to school where I was, again, like I said, bullied all the time. I was the only coloured person, non-white person at school. And I never quit. I remember never quitting. I never knew what bullying was because I never experienced it in Iran. I was just one of masses. My teachers bullied me. They called me Black Cherry. My my teachers. And so I just decided to fight back. Yeah,
that's
it just won't happen now.
It wouldn't happen in this day and age.
I was called all sorts of names by my peers. So I learned to take on martial arts. I became a head boy. I tried to learn to speak English without an accent. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to be beaten. But I still got bullied. But what I learned is life, that you can't just give up. You just can't give up. And one of the things I learned from my mum, although it was horrendous at the time, was that although we were poor, she always made me feel that I was rich. So my internal dialogue was, no problem, we got birds singing.
Your mum always made you feel rich?
Yeah, so
okay.
Although I lived in a poor neighbourhood, we couldn't afford much.
And you went to state school?
No, private school, funny enough. I'll explain. My mum married somebody else, so he financially helped. He was an alcoholic, so he was, again, tormenting me because of the alcohol issue. Thought about killing myself several times at the age of 18. I just couldn't wait to become 18 and leave. But I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't know how to leave school. I was dyslexic, so I was thought to be stupid, but I was very good with maths, with numbers. So I thought sales is the best way, because people used to say I'm a good talker. Now I see that as an insult, because I think to be a great salesperson, you need to be a better listener. So I went into sales. I did well, not because I was a smart salesperson like you. You know, we've chatted before as salespeople. I didn't look at angles, but mine was sheer determination, sheer drive to work my ass off to make it in life and get out of the hole I was in. So I always worked the longest hours. I didn't socialize. I was into sports, so I didn't drink much, because in that environment, it was like sales was an alcohol culture. After 6, you go to the pub. I never did. I worked till 8. I did my prospecting after that. I hit the ground running at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Lived in Manchester. I'll drive to London and door knock at 9, 8 o'clock. So I always worked hard. And I always had this sense, I think my mum told me that it's your job to provide. So I always had this sense of providing, a sense of giving back. So that just stayed with me. For good or bad, it's just stayed with me. And working hard is just a normal thing I do. It's just one of the things that I find very difficult nowadays, because anything from, prospecting to looking for jobs, everything, it's just touch of a button. LinkedIn contact and Instagram contact. But the old days, I used to drive and knock on doors. So too many people, I think, have lost the emphasis on working. It's just far too easy to sit behind our screens and let the internet do the connection. But it served me well.
Okay. So thank you for that. Let's go back to 2009. Before you moved to Dubai, you moved here with $1,000 in your pocket. You were married, you had children?
Yeah. Should I explain?
Explain. Yeah. Explain the events around that.
Sure. When I was 26, 7, I met this magnificent lady, my first wife. Mm-hmm. And she was 4 years older than me, and she was into personal development. I didn't know what personal development was. And she introduced me to Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and Stephen Covey and Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I couldn't believe how much I didn't know. I couldn't believe that it's every limitation I set myself is within. It was my own mindset. So the universe, God, whatever, loves me, that allowed me to meet her. We had 2 beautiful children, 26 and 25 now, extremely successful individuals. And one thing I do remember, because people say I'm a great dad, that we just had a home of love. Just gave them love and nothing but love. She was in a beauty business, and she took me to She took me to an exhibition, and I was in this sales and marketing. I always had my own businesses when I got a bit older. And I attended the exhibition. I asked some unique selling questions, and they didn't have any answers. So what's unique about your product? It was like, the boxes are nice, the packaging smells good. I thought, wow, this is a huge opportunity to make money out of this industry. So I got into the beauty business and imported some products from America, did quite well. At the same time, people like David Lloyd Centres were aspiring, doing really well in the UK, which was out-of-town health clubs. So I approached Michelle. At the time, she owned the beauty salon above a post office, very successful one in her city centre. And I said, why don't we open up a health club outside town? She said, don't think it's going to work. Didn't want to take the risk. I went and risked everything. She backed me up. We opened up a health club, and I lost a fortune in the first year. But what we did do, we turned over a lot of people. A lot of people came to our business. So I said, look, I don't know anything about this industry, but if you join me, look, we've had like 10,000 people visit our outlet. If you can look after them and I can drive them because I'm a sales and marketeer, we could do really well. And after 7 years, we had 7 health clubs in around Manchester area, doing really well. And then we just grew apart. We just grew apart 2007, 2008, 2007. I beg your pardon, 2006, 2007. And we just decided to part. We sat as friends. So we turned up at the courts going through divorce, and we actually drove together. We sat next to each other. The judge said, where's the opponent? We said, oh, we are it. And he goes, are you sure you want to get divorced? I said, yeah, we just want to be friends, but we've just grown apart. And then she went her way, I went mine. We decided that I was going to look after the kids, and our son and daughter, because she wanted to come to Dubai and travel. And I said, fine. She came here, met someone, stayed in Dubai. And 2008 and 2007, I met my second wife. We had another child, 2009. And our business was doing okay. But one evening, I had my 2 older children in the house, and there was a knock on the door. It was about 9:30 in the evening. And I remember shouting, and somebody answered the door, because I was in my shorts or something. And they didn't, so I reluctantly put my shorts on, went down the stairs, opened the door, and 4 people jumped on me at knife point. And they put a knife to my neck, saying, we'll kill you, we know. And they knew where my kids' school was, my business was, they've been following me. So if you don't pay us something like £250,000, we'll kill you all. And all I recall, I had a knife to my neck, the guy's going, cut his throat. And all I remember was my daughter was behind the door. I was thinking, I just hope she doesn't open the door and see this, because it'll scar her forever. But I wasn't thinking about, again, my health, my well-being. Being a salesman, I said, I don't carry that kind of money. I'll see you tomorrow. And they thought I was so scared that I wouldn't do anything. I called the police. Within half an hour, they were arrested. Did you know this story? Yeah. They were arrested. They were so stupid. They had my address in the car, fingerprints on my doorbell. It wasn't like, and they admitted guilt. Out of 4 people, 2 got arrested. They wouldn't tell the police who the other 2 were, so they were non-cooperative. And that night, I put my kids on the plane and sent them to Michelle.
In Dubai.
And I lost my kids because I feared for them.
Because you feared those other 2 were still out there, and there might be some
or their friends.
Repercussion.
Yeah. So I didn't even know if they arrested them and kept them in jail. I didn't know anything. The police didn't tell me anything. So they gave me a police escort to the house. I had a big 4x4, packed it, and I had 3 houses in Spain. I drove from Manchester to Puerto Banús in 48 hours. I was just shaking, my eyes open. Arrived over there, and really, I just thought, this is horrible. I'm in a business that I don't like. I'm doing business with people I don't like. I have staff that they don't inspire me. They don't, it's just about money.
You still had the 7 health clubs at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So I made a decision. To sell. Didn't give it a time scale. I said, this is not me. I'm going to find my happiness. And then I came back, and Angela, my second wife, was in Canada, running one of our franchisees in Canada. And I was just about to fly to see her, but I was in the gym. I used to be a semi-professional squash player. I was in the gym. I was shredded. My body was 83, 84 kilos. I'm 100 kilos now. And I had this funny pain in my neck and jaw. And I phoned up Michelle, my ex-wife. I said, listen, I've got this pain. She goes, whatever you do on the way to the airport, just leave about an hour earlier, go to the hospital to have tests. I said, no, I'll be okay. But it was really cramping bad in my neck. So I went to the hospital, and I said, you've had a major heart attack. And then they put me on morphine, which was amazing. And then they gave me stents. That was another amazing experience. I mean, the guy who created that, invented that, genius.
Yeah, my father's had stents. But you were relatively fit and healthy by the sounds of it.
Stress.
I thought stents was when you had too much cholesterol.
Well, I always had cholesterol because my father died aged 31 out of high cholesterol, and my grandfather died 54. So I still have cholesterol. But I honestly believe stress. Because when you stress, your arteries close. And I was really, really stressed and unhappy because of the attack, losing my kids. Wasn't happy in Manchester, wasn't happy in England, never really fitted. I remember going on many personal development courses, and my nickname was always Lost. It's just weird. People called me Lost. So I was a lost soul. And funny stories, I don't know if I've said this in one of my podcasts, is that I'm lying there and the nurses come and they pull my trousers down or pull my little blue thing up. And I'm like, what are you doing? I've had a heart attack. I said, no, we have to shave your groin because we're going to feed the tube that goes to your heart from your groin. I was like, oh, this is so embarrassing. You know, while I'm there on morphine flying on this bed. So they started shaving me down there and getting me all prepared. And I was like, it's so embarrassing. And the doctor comes and says, what are you doing to the nurses? So we're shaving him. He says, no, you can do it through his wrist. So I was like, really? Really? You really want to kill me?
Yeah.
So what was amazing was they cut me here. They put iodine in your blood so you can actually see yourself being operated on. And the speed they were putting this tube into my heart, it was incredible. I could feel it all the way here. Then the feeling goes. But it was fast. You would think being so subtle and you need your vein to your heart. But it was amazing. And they opened it up and they decided which ones they should open and which ones they shouldn't. And I was okay. But what I remember was when I was looking at the ceiling, and it was a horrible ceiling. I was like, really? Is this the last view of my life? Is this the last thing I'm going to look at before I go? And I decided that if I was going to live, I was going to leave England, no matter what. And I said, if I was going to live, it's going to be September the 1st, 2009. I just set the date. And I recall that all I did was cry. And it wasn't cry because I was dying, but I was crying because I was alone. There was nobody there. So I just decided that I was going to be with my kids no matter what happened.
How come you only had $1,000 in your pocket when you had a successful chain of
I was leveraged.
clubs?
I didn't realize how leveraged I was. The tax man came after me. I was very honest I found a buyer. I was so honest to the buyer, and I told them that I was going to leave for whatever. So it's too honest. And when you're on your knees, you don't think about strategic selling. And they paid me 10%, handed the leases over, and they told me get lost. See if one of the other 90% sue us, knowing that I was going to leave 1st of September. And I didn't have the money, didn't have anything. So they just screwed me. I gave one of the business to my staff, sold another one, paid the tax man came after me. Got nothing. I was leveraged. We were expanding. A couple of our businesses were on lease, Virgin Leisure or something. They came over and took over the leases, took all my staff, took all the equipment, took everything. So I ended up with nothing. I could have stayed and sued, but it would have been more pain.
What was the name of the health clubs?
Ayurveda after Ayurvedic treatments. So we took the A off and called it Ayurveda.
Okay.
So the idea of the story was that it's not what you do on the outside, what you put on the skin. It's how you look after your body, what you eat, exercises that you do. So it was more like a holistic approach to health. And it did very well. I was in the, funny thing is 2007, I was in a program called That's Rich on Granada TV, and I was followed everywhere by cameramen in my houses in Spain, the cars I drove.
Was that before you got held by gunpoint?
Yeah.
Maybe they watched the program.
Possibly, and I recognized they were associated with one of my customers, one of my franchisees. And what had happened was the franchisee had got the money from somewhere he shouldn't have done. And they came after him, said, we want our money back. And he said, he's got it. So they came to get it from me. Right?
Okay. So you arrived in Dubai in 2009, pretty much penniless.
Terrible health.
Like, how did it all happen? How did you manage to build up
It was worse.
the businesses that
it was
you've
worse.
got?
it was worse than you could imagine. My attackers, they didn't even serve jail time. They serve house imprisonment or something, that they get a tag and they have to be home at a certain time of the day. I couldn't believe it. But while they were at home, they started building websites against me, anonymously. Dariush is this, Dariush is that. It was so much horrible stuff said that I didn't even know what websites were. So when I come here, I could strike a deal with someone as a sales, because I knew I was good at sales and marketing. And the good thing is that I come from a poor background, so everything that I do, I have to be creative. Most marketeers throw money at the problem. With me, I have to be creative because there's never money. So, and creativity costs nothing. So I thought it's an asset that I could bring into Dubai, and Dubai was booming. But I will meet someone and a day or two they'll cancel. I didn't know why. All they did was research my name, and it was like, Dariush is a pedophile, Dariush has got 10 wives, the police are after him. It was so many websites against me that, it's like some of them must have been true, right? And what was worse, I thought I'd get over this. What was worse was that my kids were consumed by it. I'll come home and they go, Dad, there's another website. They were just like, why are they reading this about me? And it's totally untrue. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't pick on anyone. So I did some research on reputation management, and I contacted the European Union Human Rights. I contacted my MPs in the UK, and I got to know a lot about reputation management online. And I realized there's millions of people being harassed online unfairly. And now it's one of my profitable businesses because I'm some kind of an expert in reputation management. But at the time, it was like fighting a ghost that you couldn't. I contacted so many people around the world, so many hosting companies, had them removed, and they'll move again, and they move again. It was a nightmare. And all I wanted to do was provide for my kids. All I wanted to just pay the rent. Mm-hmm. Just want to move on, but I couldn't. So it was really hard, really tough. And I had a heart attack. Physically I wasn't up to it, but I managed. But what kept me going, Zoe, was the goals. I remember, and my mum. And the funny thing is, right, I look back at my life and I think everything I did, Mum told me I wasn't good enough. And I always thought maybe because I'm so positive and optimistic, I'm like my dad. I actually realized that she was always my inspiration. She was my inspiration because I always wanted to prove her wrong. So instead of not resenting her and not want to be with her, I actually thought, you know what, thank you. Thank you. Maybe I didn't have a terrible childhood. Maybe I wasn't happy, but I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't for you knocking me and making me think that I can prove you wrong.
What would you say to yourself, going back to 2009, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself?
I did say this soon shall pass, but I didn't really believe it because the shit was so deep. I was so deeply in it. So for 6 months, my diet was 2 coffees and a sugar donut. For 6 months. And I used to get kicked out of hotel lobbies because I used to sit there using the free internet, not spend any money. So I'll be 2 or 3 weeks, and then the management will kick me out to another place and another place, another place. So I would like to show that person 2009 what 2019 was going to be like, because it was horrible. It knocked my confidence, personally, physically, emotionally, in every possible way you could imagine. And I remember 2008, I'll go for dinner and maybe 20 people will come. 2009, nobody even rang my phone. See how I am. Friends never showed up. It was tough. Tough.
When did it all start going right for you?
It started going right when I got my first check. And the truth is that I didn't have a visa. I didn't have a work permit. I was doing visa runs in Oman. I think for 2.5 years I was doing visa runs. And every time at the border they say, "You a tourist?" Yes. And they knew me. They see me like 18 times.
They see you all the time.
So my first check was the most difficult because I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have the right to work in this country. And I had to get them to write a check cash. And for them to have faith in somebody who's got no track record, no nothing, and they invest in him to deliver. So it was easy. It's easy to get motivated when you have school fees to pay. It's easy to get motivated when you got to pay rent or eat. It's much tougher to be motivated when you're comfortable.
Totally agree with that, 100%. I think when you've got people relying on you, you just kind of like step up to the mark. Tell us 3 things about yourself, Darius, that not a lot of people know. 3 interesting facts about yourself. Good
or bad? Both?
Anything, it doesn't matter.
I'm a fighter, but it's got to a stage in my life that I'm exhausted of fighting. Yeah, so I'm learning how to dance more and fight. This is less exhausting. Extremely honorable, to the point of that I've become very sensitive to other people's values, because I have such high expectations of my own values, and I kind of feel let down when others don't have the same values as me. And finally, very self-critical. Before I criticize internally, I'm always, because again that's the mum thing, I'm always thinking, where have I gone wrong? What have I done wrong? And just instead of being more acceptable for who I am, that, people make mistakes, people, trip, you're a good person. So I would like to be happier, to be more self-accepting, and I'm not. This is a bit depressing podcast, isn't it? Not a good one. But, there's a positive thing to it, right? There's a positive side to everything. I'm trying to say that, maybe I'm rich now.
I think you're being honest and you're being truthful and you're speaking from the heart, and that's okay. That's okay. It's very easy to gloss over things and pretend that everything's perfect and pretend that we're, I speak to, yourself as a podcaster, you speak to certain people and the answers are just so rehearsed, and how the interview is going to go, rather than them kind of being vulnerable and showing aspects of themselves that, they possibly don't want the world to see, they just tell the rehearsed answers. So it's good that you've shown
I don't mind
truth.
People can judge me for good or bad. I am who I am. Like I said, when you nearly died, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I'll give you a brief story. Like, there's always an amazing miracle story to things. About 7-8 years ago, I helped a business turn around. I'm a sales and marketing consultant, but now we've got 9 different divisions in our company and almost 100 staff. They came to me and said, look, you have a really interesting story to tell. So, thank you very much. He said, would you speak in our event? So I've never done that before. It's a 2-day event and it finishes at 6 o'clock. Can you have the second day 5 o'clock session, which is like the dead man's
graveyard
slot.
Session, they call it.
Like everybody wants to go home. I just said, okay. So we started. There was like 60 people in the room. When I finished, there was over 100. And instead of finishing at 6, we finished at 9. And people were dancing and celebrating and crying and laughing. And somebody opened up a Facebook page. Today I have 350,000 followers on Facebook. And it's all come through me just sharing my heartfelt stories.
Sharing your truth.
Yeah. And I get every day or every couple of days I get emails saying I've changed people's lives. And I think, what other gift can God give me than be able to inspire people? Because it's not all hunky-dory. Even if you have this, you have worries. If it looks like this, you have other concerns. And it's okay. It's okay. If you stick to your values, work your ass off, you will be okay. How long it takes, I don't know.
What's your biggest fear in life?
It used to be death, but I don't fear that anymore. My biggest fear in life is leaving this earth with music still playing within me. I want to leave and it's blank. I've given it my best shot. And I've left the most amazing legacy for my kids.
That's a good one. A lot of the answers that you're saying are answers that I would give. It's absolutely awesome.
Honoured.
How long have we been talking for now?
Half an hour.
Half an hour, okay. I'm conscious that you've got a meeting at 5.
We're good.
Okay, that's good.
Are you okay with this?
Yeah, it's awesome. A couple more questions, because you've been through so much in the past in terms of kind of when it comes to stress, and stress has obviously manifested itself in your life and in your body, and which has resulted in illness, hence your heart attack. Have you put any strategies in place right now or since your heart attack in order to deal with stressful situations? And if so, what are they?
I don't think consciously I put any strategies in place because I have to change my personality. But subconsciously, you get used to it. It's like if I keep smacking a certain area on my wrist with my fingers, after about 2 or 3 weeks, that area becomes toughened. So, we're talking about boxing earlier. If you keep punching a certain area in your stomach, that area will get toughened. So I think automatically, because I've always put my neck on the line, and I've become used to stress. And Tony Robbins says the quality of your life depends on the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. Stress has become part of my DNA. And whilst other people look at maybe half a day of my life thinking, I couldn't handle that, to me, I get a month of it. And it's okay. It's okay.
I do get that it gets easier and easier to deal with. And you get to know how to manage it better. I know through personally, I've been experiencing challenging situation for the past year, and initially it consumed me, but over time I've learned how to manage it. Like if I know an email's going to say something that I don't want to read on a Thursday, I won't read it until Sunday or Monday.
Why should it ruin your weekend when you can't do anything about it?
Exactly. It's out of my control. Can't do anything about it. And I think all too often, it's like you say, that Tony Robbins said, life is all about the amount of certainty. The quality of your life is about the amount of uncertainty that you can deal with. And it's just learning how to deal with it effectively, because it's always going to be there. It's never going to go away. And there might be one thing, and then that might get better, but it will be replaced with something else. And I feel if we're reacting all the time, yes, then that's when we're living on our hormones of stress, and then that's when that can be manifested into illness and disease.
I think you're absolutely right. I look at it, I think, how bad can it get? People die, and their spouses or family and peer group, whatever, they move on, they live their life. It can't get as bad as somebody passing. Right? So, and also one thing I notice is breathing. I'm very conscious of my breathing when I'm stressed. So I try to, no matter how much my chest may feel tight and pressure, because it's the whole weight of pressure is on your chest, I really focus on my breathing and make sure I try to get as much air in my lungs as possible.
So on that note, Dariush, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest today and sharing part of your story with us. Just a little snippet, because I know that there's probably so much more that I haven't heard, but it has been very inspiring, and it's certainly, for people that are experiencing challenging situations that have got nothing, it really just goes to show that with sheer determination and pure will, that you really can achieve whatever you set your mind to, and that in itself is very inspiring. So thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you, Zoe. I think if I may, just last words. I think everything is about energy and vibrations. If you are down, if you're low in life, if you go and see somebody an investor or a prospect or a potential partner, make sure your energy isn't desperation, because nobody invests in a desperate person. Make sure that energy that you have is certainty, a desire, a focus. People invest in successful people, successful mindsets. So act as if you're going down a tube, if you're feeling low, act as if, because that saved me. I act as if I was the busiest sales and marketeer. I was the busiest marketeer. I was the busiest salesperson, richest salesperson. And you know what? Eventually it will come true. But act as if you are, because desperation serves you no good.
So when you're, just one quick question before we go. So when you are on follow
I can answer 10 questions, but you want to finish this, right? I think I've bored you.
No, you haven't bored me, but I'm conscious that you said 5 o'clock.
No, we're good, Zoe.
I'm respecting your time.
Thank you. Ask as many as you want.
I can't remember what I was going to ask you now.
I talk about desperation, energies.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you a question following on from that, and I've forgotten what it was. And it doesn't matter how much I try and think about it, I'm not going to remember right now. And I probably will remember
The moment the microphone's gone.
When I get out the room, yeah.
I shouldn't have
definitely.
interrupted. I'm sorry.
Seeing as though we have got a little bit more time. So tell us about your routine. What routines do you have?
I noticed that.
Because I'm very big on morning routine.
That's amazing.
For me, how you start your day sets your day. And, I'm very interested in my guests' routine and, how that impacts on their day. If they're big on morning routine. Are you part of the 5 a.m. club?
6. What happens? At about 5:30. I wake up 5:30 in the morning. I realized that whilst I was busy building a business, I started neglecting my health and myself. So I looked in the mirror. Suddenly I was 20 kilos heavier than I should have been. I started disliking the person I saw in the mirror on the videos. And since really lockdown, I've got this massive diet and exercise. So my mornings start at 5:30. I'm blessed enough to live on the beach. So I walk to the end of the beach. I sit for half an hour. I meditate. And I run back or try to fast walk back to the gym. So from, let's say, 6:30 to 7:30, I'm in the gym. And I plan my day, come to work at 8. We have managers meeting at 8:30. I don't have to work 9 till 6. I try to vary it. And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll go to the gym again. Because there's nothing more exciting than pumping iron in the gym, achieving physical well-being, and knowing that your body can support your mind. Before, I was out of breath. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And, we're work in progress. And as you get older, your metabolism slows down, so you got to work harder. So I go to the gym twice a day. And I have to watch what I eat. And go in the evening, spend some time with my kids. Don't party, I'll go on one date night a week with my wife to make it a special occasion. That's it, really. I love my holidays. I think the holidays are your main course. So you go out and it's a dessert and a starter, but the moment you leave home to go somewhere else away from your current environment,
and I
really
think that's
helps.
so important as well. And it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs these days do value. My father, I'll use him as an example. He's always been in business, but he doesn't believe in holidays. He would never ever go on a holiday. And it's just something that he never did. And obviously you and I know the benefit that he would get from doing that. And it's just so good now that I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs seem to have kind of progressed from that, I don't need a holiday, because it was almost like a cool thing to say back in the day, wasn't it? I don't need a holiday.
I think in the old days, there was no internet. So when you left the office, you were out of touch. But now the modern CEO there's cameras, online cameras, there can be Zoom calls. You can pretty much, especially now with the COVID crisis, you can pretty much run your office anywhere in the world, as long as there's no huge time differences. So I think technology has helped a lot. But one thing is you can't replace is the energy and the vibes when you enter the office, and you can lift the team, the energy and inspiration you can bring to your company that you can never get on Zoom.
100%. How do you feel that Dubai has changed now? When you came here, it was a similar time to when I arrived in Dubai. And like yourself, I had nothing. Came here with nothing and built a very successful sales business in financial services. You said earlier on that it was down to skill, but it wasn't. It was down to exactly what yours was down to, which was pure grit and determination and not wanting to give up, that and being creative with marketing ideas. However, things did change, kind of economically there were changes. There was a lot more opportunity back in 2009, 2010 than there is now. How have you noticed that difference in terms of how you operate business and what impact has it had?
You see, if you don't mind, I disagree. Because I think the population of Earth is growing, opportunity is growing. The population of Earth doubled since I was born.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, how many clients do I need to prosper? 500? 1,000? So when you look at the stats, and it's gone from 5 million to 2 million, it's terrible stats, but I still need 500 clients. So if you're prospecting and knocking on enough doors, you know your unique selling proposition, you have belief in what you can do, how many clients do you need to really make money? So focus on the numbers you need. Stop listening to the noise. We're growing. Even through COVID, we're growing. We recruited 8 new staff today. So if I needed $1 million, let's say I was in the construction business and I need investors from all over the world to invest in my properties. Yes, of course, the flow of money and traffic has stopped, but I don't need that. I can reach my tentacles throughout the world using the internet. I have customers and prospects in Singapore, London, New York, Hong Kong. So I think the opportunities are greater than ever before. But it's just the noise is the biggest distraction. Just cut out the bullshit, cut out the negativity, because there's always some negativity about something. Because good news doesn't sell. So if I was coaching yourself, so how many members do you need to be really successful? 1 million? Not really. 1,000? Possibly. So 1,000 to 2,000 or 500 is not that big a difference. So economy or COVID or so shouldn't really make that much difference to your business, or my business, because we're not large corporates, we're not governments. If that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you for your answer. And I like it when people disagree with me. Dariush, you're a podcaster yourself. What difference has that, if any, has it made to your business? It's 2 questions here. And who, out of anyone alive, live or dead, would you like to have interviewed? I know the answer to this question.
Muhammad Ali.
I know
Muhammad
the answer.
Ali. Yeah. Actually, I would have probably liked to have interviewed my dad.
Okay.
And asked him if he was proud of me.
Wow. I'm sure he would have been.
I hope so.
And what impact has podcasting had on your business?
It was funny because 3 weeks ago, I'm sitting in a coffee shop waiting for my kids to finish trampolining, and a CEO of one of the largest companies in UAE came to me, and I was like, what the hell does this guy want? And he goes, I've been a follower of yours for 2 years and I love your podcasts, and let's do some work together.
Awesome.
Like, this is the guy that I would have been phoning and probably...
Who's this, the manager of EMA?
No, somebody else. No, some people that pay.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not it's, without saying too much, it's a free zone. And they have access to over 35,000 businesses, all SMEs, which is right up my street. And he said he loves my story, he loves my podcast, and may he sit with me in a restaurant, in a coffee shop. And I was so honored. And he's been chasing me to do business with me, which is really, unheard of for a sales guy. So once in a while, you get these little nuggets, help you massively. But the whole idea is always that you got to deliver, right? It can open the door, but we have to deliver. Yeah, it's all in the action. It's all about delivering value.
That's wonderful. And I've remembered my question, and this is going to be the final question. How do you, when you've got a lot of noise, I know you said you have to cut out the noise. When you have a lot of noise, a lot of stress going on in the background, but you have to perform. You've got interviews to do, you've got podcasts to do, you've got business deals. How do you switch off? I'm very interested personally because with a difficult situation I've got going on in the UK, I've found that it's affected my confidence, not only when I interview, but, just generally. How do you manage that?
Burn your boats. Burn your boats.
What does that mean?
Okay, Julius Caesar, when he was a general, he went to an island, went over the hill with his soldiers and realized the enemy were far bigger than his. So he said at night to his generals, he said, burn the boats. So there's only one way out of this island. Because once my soldiers get over the hill and notice they're outnumbered, they will always run back. So what I do is I burn my boat. I don't give myself a second choice, a chance. an other option. This is my only option. And again, it becomes second nature, because what have you got to fear? There's always somebody worse off than us. Yes. And one thing that actually we spoke a couple of weeks ago is I learned from you was that try to focus on greater things than yourself, a greater cause than yourself. When you are focusing on why me, poor me, everything, that self-pity, it's horrible. It doesn't serve you. And it's not easy to say, but you know what? You're the only person. You came alone. You're going to go alone, right? Who's going to take care of you? Just you, right? So step up. Stop making excuses. 44-year-old guy in a new country with zero money and a really bad online reputation does well. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I didn't have silver spoon, nothing. Yes, if I can do it, anybody can do it. You certainly can do it. Young, presentable, smart, and your problems aren't a tenth as what. Sorry, I'm not trying to belittle your problems, but many people think they wish they had your problems or mine.
100%.
Yes, like I wasn't born in Bangladesh or somewhere where I'm trying to be a billionaire, but my locality of where I live is just totally screwing me up. Or the family I was born, all sorts of areas that you look at poverty, that we're blessed. We're blessed. So at times of trouble, stop thinking about yourself, which I learned from you, and focus on the greater cause, which is serving others.
100%, yeah. And my friend has another awesome way of looking at this as well. Like if he breaks his leg, you'd be, right, instead of complaining about breaking that leg, you'd be grateful that he didn't break 2 legs.
Yeah.
There's always
the worst situation, the worst scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's hard to say, but always afterwards you go, thank God I went through that, because it made me stronger. I think before my heart attack and all these troubles, and I was quite weak as a man. I don't think I would have been appealing to a woman, but I think I could be appealing because I stand up for my values. I stand up for what's right. So I think I've become more of an alpha male than I was before. But if I hadn't gone through my troubles, I think I would have been a weak person, a weak man.
Thank you so much for being an amazing guest today.
Thank you, Zoe. Namaste. Thank you so much.